What is up? Welcome back to the RAD.
Again, the RAD podcast. We have to change the name.
What's up? It's because it's pod. Yeah. It's Rod
Pod. Rod Pod.
What's up? Welcome back to the RAD podcast. Nic and Doug here, and in honor of the triples event at Anaheim that just happened, first dirt event of the year, kind of wanted to make this podcast about dirt, BMX dirt, and dirt events and where it's at. So first things first. I mean, Doug, did you see any of the triples event this weekend?
Here's what I saw. Oh, two. I told you earlier. One, Kevin Peraza's Superman, which is just a notorious Kevin thing. Full extended, just the most beautiful Superman you'd ever imagine. But the only thing that I really remember, aside from the Superman, was our Willie's trick. I don't remember what he called it. So it's just our Willie's trick.
It's like a special flip.
Anyway.
Kind of a special flip.
It is very special, yes. That's something you see into a big foam pit or a big airbag or something like that. But to see that over a dirt jump is what, to me, was extra impressive. Like, the trick's crazy, for sure. But I think we're so desensitized just from seeing crazy stuff happen because foam pits, airbags, like our Willie Land, that giant ramp into the airbag, he does some insane things. And so it's like, oh, it's just Ryan being Ryan again. Like, no big surprise. But then for me to see it over the dirt jumps, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And I don't know anything about, rankings or anything like that. But do you think that trick was enough to win?
We'll say first that I tried to watch the live stream of the event. I was supposed to be there, but then I ended up kind of being sick. I wasn't going to ride in the event, but I was supposed to just be there, and I ended up getting kind of sick the day before and just didn't feel like making the trip down to blow my nose every 5 seconds and be around all the dirt and fumes and everything. And so I tried to watch the live stream, and like they would announce the rider, and then they would go off the lip. The video would freeze, then they would land, and it would play until the next slip, then it would freeze. Then they would land, and it would unfreeze until the next jump, then it would freeze. Literally 30 riders
That's
in a row.
That's annoying.
You missed every single trick, so you could just went off of what they were saying. Yeah. And really, I was just trying to scrub through because I was a little bit late on the live stream. I was just trying to scrub through and watch the stuff that I wanted to see. But yeah, I watched our Willie's best trick, and it took him quite a few tries. He actually tried it in his run on the last of 3 runs, I believe. And yeah, it's like a weird special flip, basically like trying to do a backflip, but instead of letting go with both hands and then grabbing the seat, it's like doing a weird flip while still holding one hand on the bar. So the bar ends up having to do almost like a bar spin to like keep him like on it. But yeah, the hand never lets go, and it's pretty wild. I actually don't really understand how it works. Like, I've thought about being like, oh, that'd be cool to try, but then when I really think about it, I'm like, I wouldn't even know how to begin. And the fact that like the jump that he normally would do that on is so much bigger than that jump was pretty cool. But honestly, in his run was insane because he did like a front flip tsunami in his run. And I think that's...
So it's like front flip and the bike stays in place and then he pulls it back to him and finishes it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the bike was at like 0% front flip when he was already at like 75% front flip.
That's
like, that's how extended he was. And to me, doing that, because if you've never done front flip tricks, when you do a front flip trick, it kind of goes from like when you're doing the trick, it like stalls out the front flip. And then, so say you take your hands off, and then when you pull your hands back, that last bit of the rotation happens so fast. It almost goes from like feeling like you're going to under rotate the trick to then very well possible to over rotate. Yeah, very, very fast. So the fact that he's able to like, figure out how to tsunami like that, because the second he yanks that bike back, that rotation is speeding up 250%. And he was doing it multiple times. Like, that's so risky. I think the special flip thing that he did was really cool, but I think the front flip tsunami was way more risky. And he honestly probably could have won best trick with that as well. I don't know what anyone else did in best trick, but best trick is usually one of those events that like really caters towards unique new stuff. You know?
Right. Well, that I feel like the special flip is, I don't know. I've never seen it before. Maybe I just haven't paid attention, but especially in a contest or over real jumps, it's, probably not as impressive. You're right about, not as impressive as a tsunami flip. But then again, it's like the internet kind of went crazy over it, man. I reposted it. Classic Mike Feed reposted it with a commentary, and it's just everyone was talking about it. Good for him.
No, yeah, and I don't think the front flip tsunami is more impressive. It's just the thing that I can relate to the rotation of more, and I know the risk of speeding up a front flip that much at the end. And obviously the special flip is gnarly, but if like he got out of those crashes really well, the crashes on the front flip tsunami wouldn't have been as friendly.
Yeah, fair.
That's more what I'm saying is I think like the special flip was so crazy, but it's making everyone overlook what he did in his like actual contest run, which to me was really freaking gnarly. And so like respect on both of them, but the front flip tsunami, when I saw that, I was like, no way did he just come out and do that on the first jump. Like that's so gnarly.
Wait, so was the special flip enough to win it?
Yeah, special flip won best trick.
He won best trick.
Ryan,
That's crazy.
Ryan swept it. Ryan's first triples event, and I think really his first like proper dirt event, because at X Games he only rode best trick. Yeah, and he won the best trick at X Games, I think.
Is that open invitation? Like you could just go and ride if you want triples?
Yeah, you have to register. I don't know if there's a certain like number that they take, but then like Friday is like the qualifiers, and then I think they take like 20 to the next day to Saturday, and then there's the semifinals, which is like I think top 20, and then top 8 are the finals. And from what I did watch, like there was a lot of good riding, and my unfortunate thing about the triples event is this time it was 3 jumps, which makes it a little better. In my opinion, the more jumps there are, I almost think the easier it is to judge an event, because when there's more jumps, you can really start to pinpoint a certain run's weakness. You can be like, they were weak, here, here, and here, or throughout the entire course they were pedaling, or this and that. Whereas like usually triples is 2 jumps, and when it's only 2 jumps, you're just going trick for trick, and you're trying to compare one person's crazy bangers to the next person's crazy bangers. And I think that's so hard to judge. And that's why I think a lot of times, if you didn't watch the whole event, you'll watch someone's video on Instagram that they posted, say that they didn't make finals, and you're just like, how did you not make finals with that run? Like I think WBMX, like Caden, he didn't make finals, and he did cash roll bar on the first one to double whip to then 3 double downy, I believe, or 3, I think it was 3 windshield wiper or something. But if you don't watch the whole event, you're kind of just like, that doesn't make any sense. Or like last year he did quad whip to cash roll double bar and ended up like 6th. And it's like, Buckworth probably finished on the podium with double flip tuck to fronty tuck like he does every event.
I was going to say that.
And which is super gnarly. But
it's repetitive.
If there were more jumps though, because that's the thing, is it's repetitive, but I would use the same.
Yeah, for sure.
If I knew my 2 tricks were doing it, like because I'd do double flip to 7 any 2 jumps. Like I would do the same tricks, because every event you're still comparing just those 2. It doesn't really matter what you did before. But if there were more jumps, you'd get to see more variety. Whereas instead, you have a crowd of people literally trying to watch how you judge a double flip no-hander versus a quad whip, and a cash roll double var versus a fronty tuck. Like how do you really judge those 2 tricks? And clearly in triples, the double flip scores high because Brian Fox did really well at a lot of the events this year, and he was doing double flip on the first jump. Buckworth, Bryce Tryon did double flip on the first jump this year. Gabby Chavez did. And people are catching on to the fact that the double flip score is really high. But like in my opinion, double flip on that first jump is easier than like 3 triple whip.
Yeah.
Like, I think 100%, but it's just like, that's kind of the weird thing about a 2 or 3 jump contest is everyone's doing their 2 best tricks, and it's really weird to try to judge one person's best trick versus another person's best trick when they're both pretty equal, but you still got to give a score that's different and find a rank.
Well, was it Dew Tour or X Games back in the day? Those older dirt contests, I swear it was like drop in, jump. The drop in was a jump, 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 berm, jump, jump, berm, jump, or something like that. Like there was always a lot more. Dew Tour. Okay, that's what it was. And like you're saying, in those instances, the rider has to be a lot more careful about what they're sending, you know, like you have to really plan that out differently. You also have to have a big enough bag of tricks to do something impressive over 6 jumps. Or, you know, if I remember Brett's run it must have been Dew Tour, where it was, you know, it was pretty conservative throughout the first few, and then cash roll wasn't until the end. I don't know, that was back when cash roll wasn't so common, when there wasn't 16-year-olds doing cash rolls. I guess he was a 16-year-old doing cash rolls. But anyway,
he was.
Never mind. But you know what I'm saying. But the whole style of the contest had to kind of shift for that. And now it really is 2 best tricks over these jumps. Now, the third one, I think we saw a little bit more variety this year because they added that third one. I can't remember. Our BMX posted it with you know, saying that their highlights was up, but it was the guy, he did like a knack no-hander and then took his other foot off or something crazy like that. So it ultimately turned into a nothing, but it was just like so floated and extended, and it was sick. I wish we saw more of that, but it to me, it almost seems like a lot of these, what the dirt contests that we're seeing now are machine park tricks. You know, you don't see those flowy nothings and big 360 turn downs and things like that. And is it because they know that a double flip and a quad whip is going to score a lot higher, or is it just because they want to wow the audience, or is that easier for most people? Like what's going on here? Because dirt isn't dirt anymore.
I think it's like kind of what I said. It goes back to the fact that you only get 2 jumps, you know?
Right.
If your course was 10 jumps long and you had a variety of different types of jumps, you know, like when they did the X Games dirt at Pat's house, you saw a lot of very different riding.
There was more jumps
from different riders, because there was like, you know, there was a shark fin and there was like a step down, and there was like the jumps were a lot more technical. And to be able to finish your run, you knew you probably weren't going to be able to do back to back just insane bangers. Whereas like at the triples event, there's enough space to take a couple pedals. I mean, those jumps you'll still struggle if you don't land the first one good. Yeah. But like you don't have the time to show off any variety. You don't have the time. Whereas like in a park contest, I mean, you know, those guys are just banger, banger, banger because they're just that good, you know? And slope style is getting to that point too. But in slope style, you know, the courses are long, and slope style is pretty much like a big BMX dirt event with like some drops and stuff, you know, some features that you wouldn't see in BMX dirt. But because what happens when you have those like those longer courses is you can find certain jumps that you can, you know, show your banger tricks. But then you can find certain features or jumps to show a little bit more of like a style or a technical trick, you know. You can find a jump to showcase your ability to spin the other direction, you know. Like if there's 8 jumps, I'm going to make sure that I try to link together back to back, you know, like a 720 one way and then an opposite spin variation on the very next jump. Whereas, you know, if it's only 2 jumps, I'm just going to do double flip in a 7 or double flip in a front flip variation, like, because there's no room for me to showcase anything
Yeah,
else.
well, it'd be silly if it was
Everyone
just
else
two
is gonna do
jumps
their
and you're like,
bangers.
oh yeah, 720, switch 720. It's like, okay, but you could have done a lot more. Or, you could have used those two jumps more efficiently, but being able to highlight that opposite spin is beneficial for sure. But it's like, you just have to weigh it out, huh?
Yeah, because if you had, like, for example, because they threw in that third jump, which was much smaller, and you kind of almost, it looked like you almost needed to like racer over
Yeah.
it a little bit. And so that third jump kind of really did provide people an ability to kind of show off a little bit, because you had the guys who, maybe did a big banger on the first jump, but then had to sacrifice that second jump and do just like a small setup trick, like a straight three
To have
or a straight
speed
whip
for the
to get
third.
their like feet back, to get everything kind of back and settled before that last jump. And so it's like, to me, I think that jump became probably pretty big on the judging, because it's like, you're trying to link together banger on the first, banger on the second, and who can not use this as a setup jump, And so you had like Jake didn't make it to finals, but Jake Leva he did 3 double whip on the first one, and then on that middle jump he did 3 double down, and then he did fronty tuck on the last. And so using those 2 jumps to go 3 double whip to 3 double down, that's good connection. But because of the 3 double down, there's not as much speed at the end, and then you don't want to do another spin trick.
No. Did he not
It didn't
land?
look like an ideal flip jump.
Did he not land?
No, he landed.
Why wasn't that enough
No,
to
he
get
did.
into finals?
That's kind of what I'm saying about
Hey, what
the
the
event.
hell?
And when it's only 3 jumps, it's really, dude, I rewinded through finals like 5 times to make sure I just didn't miss it. Like I said, there's just, when it's only 3 jumps, it's very hard to, judge it. Whereas if it's like I said, a 6 or 7 jump course, and there's some smaller, techier jumps, you get rewarded if you can do like a steezy 3 can as your setup trick.
Yeah.
Like you get rewarded for doing things in places that other people aren't going to be doing a trick like that. And, I think like older do tours, they had step down, and then, they had hips. Hips are always a good way to differentiate yourself from somebody else. And then also, like long and lows, doing a trick somewhere, like if everyone else is like doing whips and tucks and stuff on this long and low, and you're doing like a flip or a fronty or something, like that's going to really boost you up. Like, and I think that's part of the thing about being a contest rider, is really finding ways to differentiate yourself that aren't just like bangers, because now I think it's even more important than ever, because now everyone is so good that's at these contests. You either A, go there and just do exactly the only tricks that you do very well, or you do tricks that maybe aren't your favorite ones to do in a contest, but they're not going to be the ones that other people are doing. Or B, or like option C, you go like the Brian Fox Buckworth route, and you go with the 2 tricks that the judges are going to score high every single time they do that event.
And polish them up.
It's not saying those tricks aren't good. It's just Buckworth knows he can show up and do those 2 tricks and score well every time.
Yeah.
And, it's a 2 jump event, unfortunately. Like, whereas, like I said, if you saw Dreamline, like, do you remember Dreamline from back in the day?
I went out to Dreamline. It was just a few hours north. Yeah, my friends and I went to Dreamline in Taos. They had a few of them, right?
It had 2.
Yeah, so
2
we
Dreamlines.
went. There's one in northern New Mexico, and we went out to it. And actually, Eddie, one of the photographer friends from El Paso, we ran into him, and he's all, bro, there's this room with press passes. So me and my friend just walked in and grabbed them. And like, because we're like, yo, how are you over there? He's like over there with the camera guys, just chilling. And I'm like, yo, that's crazy. But anyway, yeah, we were there, and those things were massive, but they had a whole setup. Like, I feel like just warming into it, they had 4 or 5 small jumps that kind of led up into the first big one. And so altogether, it was just insane. That first big one, then a second, then shark fin, and then 2 or 3 going back down. And the whole thing it was nuts to see in person, because those guys, you know, to me, like we're talking about the triples event and X Games now and Do Tour, like to me, that's not like dirt riding is a whole different vibe, right? You have to have a certain level of control. You have to be able to, there's a different style with it. There's different tricks that go with it. And again, the controls just to me is such a huge thing. Is if you're going in now, don't get me wrong, the triples jumps are massive and crazy, but you drop in a straight line, you go really fast and you jump over them, right? Dreamline, it seemed like you had to have more control over your speed. You had to actually feel out the course a little bit more, because you're like, okay, well, if I hit this shark fin too high, now I'm landing low on this and it's not giving me enough speed for this one. And there's a lot more thought that goes into it. Like the guys that were riding that are different guys that are riding the triples, are doing well in the triples. Like the Godziak brothers were riding it, and they're more slope style, right? Or more mountain bike. And so anyway, the whole vibe of it was very different.
Yeah. And Dreamline too, like you got to think, I mean, I think Nyquist won it the second year they did it. And I don't know if Dream Track was like a run judged event. I think the second time it was like a run judged, like you did your runs. The first one might have just been like a big jam, like a rider judged event. But, you know, so many jumps, you really got to show like your variety again, like I said, you know. But something about Dream Track, because I would put Dream Track as being like a proper dirt event.
I've never seen Dream Track.
Oh, sorry, I meant.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about something else, and I'm all. No, what did I miss?
Dream Track is a big free ride mountain bike line in New Zealand, and sometimes the names
they sound similar. I get it.
Yeah, sorry.
Dream Track,
Dreamline. The thing about Dreamline, because like I said, I think that's, you know, a super proper dirt event, and you know they made that happen, and I would say we don't see dirt events like that anymore, because of how hard it is to put on an event like that. Like, you know, to go build a couple jumps in a parking lot is one thing, you know, but I think it must be so much harder to go and find land with a slope with dirt that's able to be built on, because, you know, you can bring in dirt to a parking lot, bring in a bunch of truckloads of dirt, well, that's good packable dirt, you know, but like if the dirt at the location you found that you were able to get permission for was not good to build with, you know, getting truckloads of dirt up a mountain is a lot harder than getting it to a parking lot. And so like you've got so many factors to be able to put on a real dirt event. And like I feel bad not calling triples a real dirt event, but to me, you could have the same exact event with two ramps the same size, not built.
Well, damn, they do. Isn't it Nitro World Games? It's the exact same thing.
It really, it kind of is.
Just no dirt jumps.
When you really think about it. Yeah, I mean, it's really the same thing. I mean, I guess you could say that you could prefab an entire dirt jump line. But I think where I'm getting at is that like Dreamline and what it takes to do that takes a lot more than the parking lot. And so I think that's why there's not a lot of like BMX dirt events, is because of what it takes to put on a real dirt event. But then also like BMX dirt, like you see at triples, and then like BMX trails are so far away from each other. I feel like what you'd go out and build and, you know, call them like a trail spot, those are not the kind of jumps you want at a contest. Like you wouldn't see those triples tricks at like an old like Mike Savader spot. Like you wouldn't see stuff like that, because it'd basically be like riding crazy big spines. Like, so the dirt events that we have now are built to showcase these tricks. And so it's like this weird gray area where like you can't actually do a proper dirt event if you want those tricks.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I agree.
It's a weird
I would
thing.
argue though that the top performers are the ones that can do the same tricks over the triples jumps at an actual trail spot, because like that is so different, but being able to adapt those tricks to that like just shows true mastery. You know, like, I don't know. I feel like Daniel could bust out a lot of the stuff he's doing.
Daniel is very good.
He's
at
just
that, yeah.
on
and
point.
So is Jake.
Yeah, Jake's insane too.
And honestly, like I think a set of dirt jumps that would be really cool to do an actual contest on would be the big lav set at Woodward.
Yeah.
Like, because they are steep, but they still allow for like flexibility. But then there's also 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 6 jumps. You know,
and they're somewhat technical.
And one of them's
they're not in a perfect line.
One of them's a right hip. That's pretty steep. Then the roller, and you've got a little step down, and you've got then like the middle step down that jumps over the kiddie line, and then you've got the 2 last big jumps. And you know, you still really got to like make sure you make it through the whole line, but it still has the ability to do big tricks on. And so I think like that would be kind of a cool middle ground. Otherwise, while we were talking, I think what would make triples more interesting or easy to judge is you can keep it 2 jumps long, but don't let it be best run counts. I would say, like, what if they took the triples event and made it you had to have 2 runs down? Like, so it ends up being a 4 jump contest, and if you repeat a trick, it's the same as if the course was 4 jumps long. So now you need 4 tricks to win instead of 2.
I see what you mean.
Like, that would make things very interesting because then, you know, like if you did like quad whipped cash roll bar, then the next time you have a chance to show real variety and do something completely different than you did the first time. And I think that would make a 2 jump contest a lot better. Obviously in the time frame of the Supercross, you maybe can't do that. But if you're going to only have 2 jumps, I would say make the contest
change it up a little bit.
About more jumps, or like with a contest like Dreamline, and you know, this is how a lot of mountain bike events operate, like 9 nights and stuff. A lot of it's based on like overall impression. You know, like a 2-hour jam session, and it's based on overall impression. So if you've got a guy who throughout that 2-hour session does 3 bangers but doesn't ride, you know, he's not really going to win. But if you've got a guy that's like just shredding all day, doing stylish tricks, tech tricks, banger tricks, like he's going to win that overall impression, you know? I think there's maybe a better way to make less
I have
stuff
2
better.
good ideas for how they can change up the triples jam and make it better. 1, space them out a lot. So the first jump, you have nice speed from the roller. The second jump, you've got to put your legs to the test, and you have to crank for a quarter mile before that second jump. And that's really going to separate the men from the boys. If you can...
No, I think they should just take out the rolling.
No.
Leave the second jump close
both of
and
them.
just pedal through the pits. Like you can use the speed from the first one for the second one.
But you have to get
the second one's already hard
amount.
to get speed for. But just imagine they just like red carpet the entire pits.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, motorcycles, you can go the other way. And just have people
Yeah,
running out
see,
there
I think
gearing,
that's perfect.
just cranking
Because
for this big jump.
If you
like old
if
school,
you can't crank to
old
the
school
first
style.
jump, you don't deserve to win. Like, that should be the first thing there. You've got to be able no chainless, no free coasters. Like, so anyway, that'll separate the men from the boys if you can get the speed for the jumps. The other option, very similar but uphill. It just twisted a little bit, so now the jumps are going uphill, and I don't know what that would feel like, but it'd be very, very different.
Well, see, so that's my thing. Like when I said, you know, Dreamline has like a slope, is dirt contests in a parking lot. Like my first pro mountain bike event ever was in a parking lot, and it was big step down, then like 30-foot jump, 25-foot jump, and then like a 17-foot jump. Flat ground, when you're talking dirt jumps, may as well be uphill.
Yeah.
Because
Just feels awful.
you run out of speed. Yeah, you run out of speed as the jumps go on, and so that's why like the first jump is always big and the second one is significantly smaller because you do run out of speed. And like slopes, obviously, like whereas Dreamline, you know, it's like the jumps start small and they got bigger as you gain speed.
Yeah.
Whereas like like the triples, when they're parking lot dirt contests,
Bigger to
they always
smaller.
get smaller. as you go, which to me is like a weird thing. Like that's, and honestly, we could just say that right there separates a real
That
dirt event from a
proves
not
it's
one.
not-
Is
yeah.
if the first jump is bigger than the rest of them,
Game over.
it's just wrong.
Yeah.
Like it should be like you get into that flow, you start doing tricks, and then boom, you got your banger on the last one. Like,
Yeah, instead of being like,
know,
well,
it's just weird,
I'm only
like-
gonna have speed for this banger one time, so I better send it on the first one and then hope I have enough to carry through.
And it's like it's still cool. I mean, it's still a dirt event made out of dirt, but I just would really love to see an actual full blown, like slope style
Yeah.
before BMX, and no wood ramps, just big dirt contests where it's kind of techy, like you'd probably want to ride with brakes, where like you actually have to, like in slopestyle, there's a lot of slopestyle courses where it's not just, let off the brakes and go. A lot of times you land on one jump, you're like scrubbing speed with your brake, you're making adjustments, you're de-pumping, like, and people watching, obviously, they never factor in that. They're just like, oh, trick.
Yeah.
They don't factor in that you're also trying to remove and or add speed for certain features, and you're trying to judge that while also prepping for your trick. And I think that would, be good for BMX. But what it really comes down to is, that's what I want to see. But do any of the riders right now who are like, contest winners, do any of them, do you think, actually want to see that happen? Or is it more the older dirt riders like Corey and Hucker and Anthony Napolitan that would actually like push to make? Because Anthony's the one who put on Dreamline. Like, is it only them that would really push for that? Or do you think any of these other big riders with the big names would get on board with trying to make an event like that happen?
I think the riders get on board wherever the money's at, and I think that's the biggest thing. Is there a pretty good payout for triples or no? I have no idea what
I think
it is.
first place is like $6,500
Yeah,
or
that's
$6,000
pretty
or
good.
something, which to go do a few tricks is not too
Over
bad.
2 jumps, 3 jumps. Yeah, and I don't remember what Dreamline was, but I think ultimately it's like everyone's inherently got this mindset where like, where can I make the most money by doing the least amount of work? And so the contests that come up that are like, if I could, make a good amount of money over 2 jumps versus 20 jumps, I'm more likely to do the 2 jumps. And then it's also set up more optimal so that they can pay better on those. But what I'm getting at is like, if there was a big, say, Dreamline that paid a good amount, for the riders, I'm sure the riders would be all down to go out there and shred it. And, but it might just be quite a bit harder to put on, or there's not enough profit there. I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of people watching the triples challenge, but is that more so because it's during Supercross?
Yeah, I mean, triples probably isn't watched widely across the internet. It's mostly just watched because it's at
That's
triples
what's going
at
on.
the Supercross,
Yeah.
which makes it really
Supercross.
cool. I mean, I think we need more events at things, because it's always going to be easier to bring BMX to an audience if the audience is already there.
And it gets people
You know, it's
exposed
like
to the sport. Like,
mountain
I'm all
bike-
for that.
Yeah, slope style events, they're always at big bike festivals where there's already people, or they're in like city centers or stuff like that. And you got to kind of just take the events where the people are. But you say they go where the money is, and what we can see from triples is it's often a lot of high level park riders that win that event. Now, if it was something more like Dreamline, I think you'd see a different type of rider dominating that event, because personally, to me, the guys who are more known as dirt riders, they don't win triples because they don't have the box jump tricks, which is essentially what you can do at the triples event. Like, whereas, like I said, I think there's still some guys you'd see like Pat Casey and stuff. But I feel like a more proper dirt jump line where it was a little more tech to ride, and then you were still expected to do those tricks, and there was more jumps. I think you'd see a lot different group of riders like really be able to shine and actually compete at what they're good at. Like I said, because you'd see tricks that weren't just redouble whip, ground whip, and stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I can't remember who it was, but at Dreamline, the rider that I was most excited for, like one of my favorite riders, let me down big time because they could hardly finish the course. Like it's like banger on jump 1, banger on jump 2. It's like, oh, no speed for the shark fin, and then you're just dead the rest of the run. And whereas the people who shine, like you're saying, paced it a little bit better. They were still doing crazy tricks, but it was less crazy for a longer duration. Like they made it through, they kept at their speed, and those are people who really understand how trails work and understand that thing. And so yeah, you're totally right. It's a whole different group shine through based off of the type of contest it is, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, a question for you guys before we leave. Do any of you guys plan to build dirt jumps? And if so, why? I don't know. That's my best question.
Why? Doug, have you ever built dirt jumps?
Look, yeah, I'll leave you guys with some wisdom. You're going to get really excited. You're going to say, I found a great spot to build dirt jumps. You'll be happy. You'll have a good idea. You'll get a shovel. You'll take off your shirt. You'll dig for 6 hours. You'll look at the small pile of dirt you've accumulated and you'll be defeated. You'll come home. You'll wake up the next day. Your arms are going to be super sore. You're going to truck out to your little pile of dirt and put in another 8 hours only to be disappointed again. Building dirt without a tractor and stuff, man, it's impossible. It's so discouraging.
But then, on the contrary to that, then all of a sudden, years later, you've got this beautiful dirt jump spot right before the
city takes it down. So if you do follow through and build it, you will be disappointed one day. That's what we're getting at. I guess if you own the land, it's okay.
Or some raunchy little kids
take their dirt bikes,
take a pickaxe to it, and yeah. That's why. I mean, trails it's hard to upkeep. Like if you're not on your own land, even then, still get shut down sometimes.
Neighbors call. It's crazy.
If dirt jumps is your thing, build them,
and people will come.
And don't let other people ride
build
them.
It, and they will come.
Yeah, don't let you don't want people to come.
All right, cool, guys. Well, this has been fun. Let us know what you thought in the comments, and we will see y'all in the next video.
Goodbye.